All right, thanks guys for joining us today. We are going to talk about Thanksgiving. The holiday season's upon us. It can be one of the most stressful times of the year when it should be one of the best times of the year, right? And the dinner that you prepare for your family. I know a lot of people have stressed out over it, or during these times you may be tasked to actually do the whole dinner because we're only allowed so many people. So you're forced to cook dinner this year. And how do you do it? How do you keep it stress-free? We're going to talk about that. Thanksgiving to me is my favorite holiday. Anytime a chef gets a reason to cook and throw down for his family, I'm all about it. We actually have a lot of tradition at Thanksgiving, and the biggest is we don't do a traditional Thanksgiving meal. We actually pick out of a hat a different country, and that's what we do at ours. And everybody who comes has to bring something from that country. And then that Thanksgiving, we pick next year's Thanksgiving. So this year we're having a Creole Thanksgiving in my house. Last year, I believe, was Japan. But I know a lot of people do tradition. Whether you're doing Japanese or Creole or traditional, this really applies across the board. So we're going to talk about how to prepare Thanksgiving dinner a week to 3 days out, the day before, and the day of, and how to make it easy. But you can even have little parties while you're doing this. Get family together to prep your meal the day before, have some wine, have some appetizers, and just have a thing. It's like a lot of countries get together, like I believe in England, they'll get together on the Sunday after Thanksgiving and make all the cakes for Christmas, the puddings. So this can be that kind of tradition for you where you get together the family, someone makes a pot of soup, and you prep Thanksgiving dinner. So 7 days to 3 days out, some things you can do is you can make your brine if you're going to brine your turkey. You can make your cranberry sauce if you're doing any butters, like honey butters, things like that. For your rolls or biscuits, you can do that stuff a day ahead, or 7 days to 3 days out. So we're going to make a turkey brine. We're going to brine our bird this year. So a couple rules is water, salt, sugar. You need that to make a brine. Everything else, it's up to you. It's your day, right? It's your party. So in here we have 10 quarts of water, 12 pounds of water. Okay, the reason why I say weight is because I like to do a percentage of salt to that weight. So this is 12 pounds of water, and I do 3.5% salt. That's a good rule because you don't want this too salty. You want it to really just tenderize the meat and do its thing and not over season your bird. So this is 3.5%, which is about 7 ounces. Okay, and that's going to go in the pot with the water. Next is sugar. This really helps balance it out. You can use white sugar. I'm a fan of brown sugars, raw sugars. They add kind of a nuttiness, a caramelness to it. This will also help color your bird, all right? This will help give it that brownie, because it's got that maple syrup in it. So we're just gonna throw a pound in, all right? It's a pound bag, so it makes it easy. I don't have to measure that out. So that's pretty much the rules. You gotta have sugar, salt, and water. That's it. Everything else is up to me, up to the chef, the cook. So we're gonna throw in some garlic. All right. Now you could just chuck this in because you're gonna boil this and it's gonna marinate for a few days. But I like to kind of open them up a little bit and just crush them. You don't need to chop them. You can use already chopped garlic if you like, but this is pretty easy. You're not really doing much. So if you're not good with a knife, this is kind of the easy way to go. We're just gonna mash that up, throw it in the pot. All right. Got some bay leaves here. Nice fresh bay leaves. You can use dried. Just use half the amount. If you use dried, it's a little more concentrated. All right. Also have some peppercorns, some fennel, some cinnamon. Again, this is me. You want to use mustard seed, coriander seed, cardamom, cloves. You want to do kind of a fall pumpkin spice. Well, everybody does pumpkin in the fall. You want to do a pumpkin spice turkey. Go for it. Have some fun. So I'm using fennel, cinnamon, and peppercorns. All right. And then I have some oranges, citrus. A lot of people use lemon. I like the orange flavor. It's not as acidic. It's a little sweeter. That's just me. So I'm just going to cut them in half this way. Juice it a little bit. Throw it in. All right. all you do at this point is bring this guy to a boil. All right. Get that's on because we actually got a brine already made. So we're gonna bring this to a boil, let it dissolve. And that's it. Shut her down. You have to let this cool completely. This is why it's good to do this 7 days to 3 days out. It's got to be completely cool. It actually infuses better if you get it cold. So let it sit to room temperature. Throw it in your bucket that you're going to brine your turkey in, or pot, and let it sit for 3 or 4 days, and you're good to go. So that is your turkey brine. And my challenge to you is have some fun with it. Make it your own. This can be something you change every year, or it can be something that is a new tradition for you. All right, there's our turkey brine. Okay, so we are now going to do another item that's going to be 7 days and 3 days out. Is we're going to make our cranberry sauce. I know a lot of people are used to the jelly out of the can. It has the mold of the can on it. My wife still swears by it. She loves it. But I like a good homemade cranberry sauce. It can be intimidating, just by thinking about it. But this is a very easy sauce. It's great made because of the acid of the cranberries and the sweetness of the oranges we're going to use. It really melts together over time and becomes better. So we're going to have this, and we're going to let it simmer. We're going to puree it, make it nice and smooth. And here we go, cranberry sauce. So in the pot, I have about a pound of frozen cranberries. It's very important to use frozen over dried because the frozen has the liquid in it, so it'll help seep out. The dried can be too firm and actually take too long to cook. Not dried, but the fresh. You can use fresh, but this is a lot easier and it actually has more flavor. So sugar, it's about a cup of sugar. Cranberry juice, got the Kickstarter there. Just a cup of that. We're going to use an orange juice concentrate, the little frozen concentrate you get out of the freezer. This helps with the body of it, and it's natural. It's because it's concentrated. It's got a natural sugar content, and it'll help with the viscosity and then also the balance of everything with that sourness of the cranberries. So it's about 3/4 of a cup of orange juice concentrate. A little spice, cinnamon. This is where it's your day. You can have that here. You can do pumpkin pie spice, cinnamon, no spice, clove. So it's about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Feel free to add as much as you like. Nutmeg's good in there as well. Now we're going to add some orange zest. This is a microplate. This is a great way to zest. If you have a box grater, use the finest part of your box grater. But this just makes it easy because you can go right over the top. We're just going to zest one orange in there. All right. What's great about a zester is it just puts that nice bright orange in there. It doesn't get any of the white, which is bitter. And most of the flavor, there's more flavor in that zest than there actually is in the orange. All right. That's where the extract's going to come from when you're buying orange extracts. It's when they're so strong and good. So we're also not going to waste this orange. We're just going to go right in there as well. All right. So we're going to let this simmer for about 45 minutes. And then at that time, we're going to puree it. Cranberry sauce is a great additive to finish with your turkey, to use as your turkey if you don't want the hot gravy, you want something a little sweeter. It's great on there. If you're having a ham as well, this is great for that. And it's just a great additive. It adds acid to the plates because Thanksgiving, you got a lot of fatty foods, right? Stuffing, potatoes, green bean casserole, which is covered in mushroom soup. So all this fatty, rich stuff, this is that acid that cuts through your meal and makes it phenomenal. It pops, okay? And that's why I love this more sauce versus the jelly kind, because you can mix it and use it for a lot of other things. So again, we're gonna let this bad boy simmer for about 45 minutes, and we'll hit it up with the puree, and we'll get some more things going. All right, we're gonna go to 3 days out now. So we've prepared our things. We've made some butters. We've made, if you're making those, we've made cranberry sauce. We've made our brine. We've done those things that you can do a few days out. Now we're gonna be the day out. This is where you can throw the party, right? And where you get some friends together and have some fun. And I also wanted to mention a couple other things you can do out is if you're gonna have some cocktails or drinks, you can make simple syrups or your apple ciders and just give them more time to infuse that way. Those can all be done 7 days to 3 days out as well. So we're gonna brine our turkey. We're gonna give it a good day. You can do 2 days. I like a day. I don't wanna over salt this and have it too briny, because we're not curing it, right? We're just tenderizing this guy. So we're gonna go ahead and throw it in. So we've made our brine. I got it into a pot like this. You can do, if you've got a fridge situation, as long as the turkey can be completely submerged, that's really all you need. If you have an extra fridge like we do, you can use a 5-gallon bucket, a bigger pot, and things like that. So we have a fridge that's gonna hold about 100 of these guys here in a few weeks. So we're going to use pots like this, but you don't want to overcrowd either. So if you're doing two turkeys, do 2 different brine buckets. All right, so we have our turkey. This is about a 10-pound turkey, 10.5 pounds. Now we want to make sure it's dry. We're not going to season this. You don't want to stuff this at this point, but if it's got like it's got the liver in there, the neck bone, we'll save that. We'll make some greens or use it for our gravy. But you don't want to stuff it at this point. This one comes already tied, so that's great. We don't have to tie it, but if you are going to have to tie your turkey and you're going to stuff it, don't tie it yet. But if you're not going to stuff your turkey, go ahead and tie it up. So we want to just make sure it's dry of any of the blood that sitting in there. We want this salt and sugar mixture to kind of do all its things. So we're just going to pat this guy dry. All right. Same thing underneath. Don't pull back the bottom. Just pat it dry. All right. So we're going to go right into our pot. And to notice I'm holding it from the back end. I don't want to just hold it from up here and slip and then splash all over you. I'm going to go right in. Make sure if you have a lot of liquid in there, what you want to do is make sure that you put a plate down because it'll float. So I have just enough to where it's covering and it's not going to float. But if it is you have a lot of water and it's going to float up a little bit, just put a plate down there and let it be completely submerged. So we are 100% submerged. We're going to let this sit in the fridge for 24 hours. All right, and there is our 1 day out brining our turkey. Okay, so our turkey is brined. We got that guy is doing his thing in the fridge. Now we're going to make some stuffing. So this is a good 2-person job. One person can be chopping up the vegetables while the other person got the stock and the bread ready to go. I want to talk a little bit about bread for the stuffing. And it's very easy to buy stovetop, which there's nothing wrong with that because one thing about buying stovetop is the bread's good to go, but you can do anything you want to. It doesn't mean you can't add oysters if you like to do an oyster stuffing. You can add chestnuts, mushrooms. We're gonna add mirepoix to ours, but we dehydrated our own bread. What we did is we got bread off of the reduced rack, something that's already going stale, and we chopped it up just like this, broke it up, and then we got it drying. Now I got this cabinet right here that I've been drying already for a week at 170 degrees, which your oven goes to, just nice and low. I got this bread here, and I have enough for about maybe 200 people that we're going to do drying out. So I've already cut it up and let it dry, and then when you put it in your bowl, just kind of break it up a little bit more so it's a little finer. Okay. The more you dry it out, I only did about 170 for an hour, then I just let it sit there off. You can do that in your house. Do it for about an hour at 170 and just let it sit on your cabinet for a couple days and your countertop, and it'll be nice and dry. You want it, the firmer it is, the drier, the harder it is, the better it's going to soak up your liquid and not be a soggy stuffing. I mean, no one likes soggy stuff. All right, so our bread's already in a bowl. So we're going to start by sauteing our veg. We're going to use a wok. You can use a skillet. A wok is just it's a skillet used in Asian countries, and this is just what I use a lot. It's easier for me to stir, and I like to use a wok. So, but you don't have to use a wok. It gets really hot. As good as it is, that happens. I like to put my butter into a hot skillet. The reason why is you see that nice brown color? That's going to give a nuttiness. I love browning the butter before I use it. So that's why it's important to use a nice hot skillet. You can go slower and brown it over a long period of time, but we're gonna saute this. So we got it browned pretty fast, all right? So that's browning, melting, Now we're gonna add our mirepoix. Mirepoix is simply carrots, celery, and onion. And we're gonna do equal parts. We have a cup of onion, yellow onion, a cup of celery, and a cup of carrot. And I use pre-shredded carrot, right? Just to make it easy. We're just gonna saute that just until it's tender. All right, now, while that's doing that, I got a quart of chicken stock in a pot. I got it heating up, so my stock's getting hot, my veggies are cooking. I got some herbs here. I got a mix of parsley, sage, and a little bit of fresh rosemary, all minced up, and that's about 3/4 of a cup. This gives it a nice fresh look, flavor, aromatics, especially when we hit it with that hot stock. It'll really open it up, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and mix that into our bread. And then we're gonna season this. So we're gonna add a little bit of salt. Remember, you can always add, you can never take away, so you can taste this after you put it all together to see if it needs more. If you're using stovetop and using the seasoning in with it, I would recommend making it first, then seasoning it if it needs more. Okay. All right. So when this is nice and soft and tender, you want to just go ahead and add it to your stuffing, okay? So we're going to add that. And again, if you want to add chestnuts to this, mushrooms, anything, make it your own. Have fun with it. This is the time to do that. If you're going to add anything that has high moisture to it, like mushrooms, you want to make sure that you squeeze out some of that liquid, okay? Because you don't want to add more liquid than what you're preparing for. Right? It's got a lot of moisture. So spinach is another thing. If you're going to add spinach to this or green, you want to make sure you squeeze that dry after you saute. All right. So there we go. We got our nice mix. That looks good right there. So now we're going to soften this up. We're just going to take our hot stock. It's very important that your stock is hot. It absorbs better when it is hot. Okay? Just going to soften it up. So that's about 3 cups. I'm going to reserve a cup because again, you can't take away. So we're going to add that other cup. It's going to need all of it, but I like to just kind of stir and see. I've been wrong a time or two. All right. And the longer this liquid sits on there, the softer it's going to get. So we're going to stir it up nice and good. All right. And you can feel the crunch kind of go away. But you see how nice and light that is still? It's not real wet and dense. That's what you want. If you like a wetter, denser stuffing, then I would just recommend doing it the day of. This really helps doing it the day out because it's going to absorb all that chicken stock flavor, the salt, pepper, the mirepoix, the butter. It's just going to just continue to get better. All right. So that's pretty much stuffing. There's another way you can do this to make it a little bit more casserole-y cakey is you can add eggs. So for this recipe, if you're going to add eggs, I like to leave the eggs out, but you can add 4 eggs. Just recommend cracking one at a time so you don't get shells in there. One, put it in, give it a nice stir. And then we're gonna bake this into an aluminum pan. This is a time saver. You know, you get done eating, you don't wanna spend the rest of your night washing dishes. So this is a great way to save and recyclable as well. You can use a casserole dish if you like, but we're gonna talk about ease today. So we're gonna use aluminum pans. And they also have lids that you can use and you can stack in your fridge. So what we're gonna do is just gonna go ahead and put this in the pan. We're gonna bake it in. All right. And you see how nice and light that is. As this sits, it's gonna get denser, but not as dense as you would if you used a fresher bread, okay? All right. So there is our vegetable stuffing, okay? And we're gonna let this sit in the fridge overnight, and then we'll get it back out and heat it up easy peasy before dinner starts, okay? All right, another great side that we can do one day out that your family can help with is au gratin potatoes, a layered potato. And we're gonna show a couple ways to do this so that it can be as difficult as you want or as easy as you want. So we're gonna use a mandolin to cut some Yukon Gold potatoes. A mandolin's a great tool to have because it makes them nice and thin. I also like to use Yukon Gold. It's my go-to potato in the kitchen. It's got a great potato flavor. It's kind of already buttery, so when you add butter to a potato, it just makes it that much better. I don't recommend using a red potato. They're a little too waxy. Idaho potatoes are good because they have a nice starch too. So as we do this with the cream, which I'll talk about in a second, it'll help thicken it up nicely. So we're going to be making a sauce right in the pan. Okay, this is great to do. We're going to use raw potatoes. So we'll talk about oxidation and stuff as well. So we got this mandolin. It's on the thinnest setting. Okay, that's very important. We want this nice and thin because as we're making this sauce in the pan, we also want the potatoes to cook. No one likes crunchy potatoes. So you'll most likely have a guard on yours, which is good. So we're just gonna cut these nice and thin. I'm not putting a lot of pressure because the more pressure you put on your mandolin, the thicker the slice gets because it'll make pressure here. So just nice and thin, okay? And then that's our Yukon Gold slice. These potatoes are just washed, they're not been peeled. The Yukon Gold you don't really need to peel. So that is one way to get your potatoes ready. Another way, which is the way we're gonna do it here, because this segment is really all about ease, right? And still making great flavorful food, but making, having fun with your family, as well as cooking and afterwards, so you don't feel the stress. So another way to do that is they have bagged potatoes now in the refrigerated section that are still fresh, but already processed. I think they have sliced and diced and shredded. So they're not frozen, so they don't have all that water content, and they're fresh, freshly sliced. So with that, they will still oxidize. So it's important that we keep these submerged into the cream when we do it. But what we're gonna do is go ahead and throw about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of thinly sliced potatoes. And these are the Idaho potatoes that are already been sliced out of the bag. Okay, and that's gonna be in a bowl. And to that bowl, we're gonna add about 3/4 pound of shredded Parmesan cheese. It's important that you use a fresher Parmesan cheese, not the jars that have the dried. You want this nice shred because this is again going to help bind and make the sauce in the dish. All right, so we have some chopped garlic. It's about 8 cloves for this pan we're going to do. So I know it sounds like a lot, but we're feeding about 16, 17 people this guy. Okay, we're going to add a little salt and pepper. Okay, so that's the basic, that's the base. This is as simple as you can get it. If you want to add basil, some fresh thyme, now's the time to do it. You can add it in there. If you want to add some fresh grated nutmeg, you want to make them spicy, you want to add some greens. Again, if you're going to use something with high water, you want to squeeze it out. So sauteed spinach would be great here. Just make sure you squeeze all the water out. Thanksgiving's very traditional. I know a lot of people don't like messing with stuff. So we're just gonna make this plain, but it's delicious at the same because it's got the creaminess and the cheesy, the garlic. It's almost like potato Alfredo right in the pan. All right, so we got that mixed up. We're gonna go right into the pan. Okay. If you have a casserole dish, 9 by 13 is about what you want to do. Okay. And all fits. So don't worry about going a little heavy because as this cream sits, this will become denser over time. All right. So we want to press it down a little bit too, so that it becomes, so when it bakes, it becomes almost like a potato cake kind of thing. Okay. And then we're going to add cream. It's just a heavy whipping cream. This is 1 quart, which is roughly 2 pounds. Okay, it's like 2.2 pounds. It's the chef in me, knowing the weights, right? So we're gonna use the whole quart. And then we're just gonna kind of press that back down and let some of that cream come to the top. can see that coming up. That's what you want. You want all the potatoes coated in the cream. That'll help keep it from oxidizing because we're day out, guys. We want to make sure this is not blackened on us, especially if you're using fresher potatoes like the Yukon Golds. So if it's completely submerged like that, you can do this a day out. Do not do this more than one day out, and you're more than welcome to do it the day of. But this is quick and easy, and I know a lot of people are scared to prep potatoes a day out because they think they're going to blacken. But this is a way to do it. Okay. All right. So we have our potatoes, and here is our day out, our gratin potatoes. So we have this cream completely submerged. We're just going to wrap this, put it in the fridge, and let it sit one day, and it's going to marinate in that cream, that garlic, and that Parmesan cheese. It's going to become delicious. So we have our stuffing now. We have our gratin potatoes. All right, let's get our turkey ready. Okay, so we have our turkey here. It's been brining for about 24 hours. We're going to go ahead and pull this out and give it a dry. So this should feel firm. Just be careful when you do it because that cavity is built in some liquid. You don't want it to pour it all over your tool. It's going to go right onto a board with a paper towel. All right, so that bottom starts to get dry. All right, we're going to make sure this is nice and tight. We're just going to give this a dry because what's great about the turkey, right? The dark meat and the skin. You want that skin to be nice and crispy. It's extremely hard to make crispy skin with wet skin. All right, so you want to get this as dry as you can. A great way to do this, if you want to even go farther, is you can brine it a day. So let's say we're back to 3 days out. You brine it still to 24 hours, but you let it sit in your fridge uncovered for a day. And that'll dry the skin out even more. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you like super crispy skin, that's the best way to do it. But I wanted to show you the easiest way with the best results that you can do. Okay, so if you want it super crispy, go an extra day out and let it dry. Right? Fridge space is a thing too for a lot of people that don't have the ability to do that. So we got this guy nice and dry. Now we're going to go ahead and put it into our roasting pan. There's a couple ways you can set up your pan. So you have this nice aluminum deep pan, and in here I have a rack. So we're going to set it right off the rack. That way it's not on the bottom and it doesn't burn. And then another way is put it on mirepoix. Put it on some onions, some carrots, some celery, some potatoes, and you can put it on the bed of that, and that way it's up off, and you can use that for your gravy, those vegetables for your gravy as well. So we're going to set that on this rack. So move this guy. All right, so our turkey is ready. Couple ways, you can put some water down here if you like. I'm going to leave this dry so that it drips. But if you want to put some water, what that does is that'll help speed up the cooking time about a half an hour on this guy. But we're just going to leave it dry. So for this turkey in this pan, if you're going to use water, 1.5 cups to 2 cups is plenty. Okay. So now we're going to butter it, and what this is going to do is help give it that color. Okay. So we're just going to baste it with. Notice I have a butter in a separate dish. When this is done, I'm going to throw it away. I don't want to contaminate anything else. So I'm not going to brush my biscuits with it or anything like that. So it's just very important for cross-contamination since we're messing with the butter here. But coat it good. A couple other things I want to talk about. So let's just say you don't want to brine. You want to just do a nice rub. This is when you can do that rub, right now, okay? You can let it set for about an hour, but when you rub, you want to make sure you get under that skin. Pull that skin up, which I'll show you here in 1 second. You can pull this skin up right here and just kind of work your finger in. All right, I don't want to do that with this because we're going to, this is a show bird. So stick your finger under the skin, just like this, and work some space in there. Okay, before you add your seasoning. Disconnect it right here. Now you can season it. You can go as simple as salt and pepper. You can use a Cajun seasoning or your favorite poultry seasoning. Just get up in there, get under there. So the brine acted as that, right, for 24 hours. So if you're not using a brine, you want to get as much flavor as you can. So getting in there is the best way. Work down in here under by the legs. Get into the cavity, okay? So that that rub will actually get into your broth when you go to make your gravy, okay? So our bird is ready to go. For the brine bird, I'm not seasoning this at all. No more salt, no more pepper. You can if you like, but to me, it's perfectly seasoned as it is. Okay, so you're gonna add water. It's gonna go into the oven, 300 degrees, for about 2 hours for this size of bird. For about a 10-pound bird, 300 for about 2 hours. The best way though is to use a thermometer. You want a kind of a rough time. You want to know a time so you know how to plan everything else. So figure for this size bird about 2 hours, but the best way is this guy. And what we'll do is you want to stick it into the thickest part going down into the bird. So to check, so what we'll do is we'll go down into, and if it's about 155 to 160, that'll be what you're looking for, okay? So about 2 hours for a 10-pound bird, figure another 20 to 30 minutes for every pound past that, okay? Another way to do this to get a nice crispy skin, I like to do the balanced heat. That way it doesn't mess with the muscle too much. But if you want to crank it up to 400 for 20 minutes, lower your heat, that's great for smaller birds. And you can do it that way as well. But for a nice, easy, consistent day, drinking some Chardonnay, one temperature, 300 degrees is a good alternative there, okay? All right, so he is ready to go. We're gonna get ready to put him into the oven, and we're gonna get the rest of our stuff ready to go, and we're gonna talk about the day of, how to make your day super easy. So our turkey is out and ready to go, and now we're gonna put the rest of our meat in. All right, so our cranberry sauce has been cooking for about 40 minutes, and you're gonna see what happened is the cranberries got nice and soft. All right, there's still quite a bit of liquid there, which is good because there's so much sugar in here. As this chills, it's gonna set on us. It's not gonna set like the jelly, but it'll set and give us a nice viscosity. You can serve this warm right out of this pot too if you do decide to make it the same day. If you're gonna use a regular blender, you wanna make sure you let it cool for about 30 minutes so you don't decorate your kitchen with cranberry sauce. So we're gonna use a stick blender, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this. We're going to just pulse it, which is just quick bursts like that. So if you want a chunkier texture, you can pulse it just like that. And what's happening is we're busting up some of those berries, and it's releasing some of the natural pectin, the sugar, which is actually what naturally gels jelly, out of that cranberry while keeping some of the texture. Okay? And then, so as you can see, it still has some nice chunk texture in there. All right, that's personally how I like it. If you want to make it more sauce, just keep going. You just let it run. It's very important if you're using an immersion blender, don't raise up. There's holes in here; it can shoot liquid towards you. So just tilt your pan, get it as deep as you can. And just let it puree. You can hold it in one spot; it'll work itself back to the blade and just get nice and smooth. Okay. There, that's good. If you want to be really chefy, you could run this through a strainer and get all the skin out and everything, and make it super nice and smooth. And you can paint it. And, you have a nice cranberry coulis. Okay. So there is our cranberry sauce, and I'm going to show you how nice and bright that is. Look at that. Perfect on a ham, perfect with a turkey. But there we go. Nice fall cranberry sauce. Okay, so we have brined our turkey. We've made our brine. We talked about 7 days out, 3 days out. We got everything ready to go that we could. Then we went a day out, right? We got our stuffing together, our ground potatoes together. We got our turkey ready to go. I got some carrots here that you could boil and have hard cooked and ready to go and seasoned, those can be in the oven. So your whole meal has basically not been cooked, but it's been prepared. So all you got to do is heat it up. Now we are one day in, where it's Thanksgiving. People are coming over. It's about to get down, right? So we're gonna roast our turkey. We talked about adding a cup and a half to 2 cups of water if you like. Turkey's in the oven. You figure about 2 hours for the size that we showed, and now it's coming out, right? So we're on that day. Turkey's been in. If you're eating dinner around 3, you want to and it's going to take 2 hours. Put your turkey in around noon, okay? So that way, the turkey comes out around 2, and then at that point, which is right here, the turkey's out of the oven. I'm going to immediately cover it with foil. So I made sure the internal temperature was 155 to 160. Now I'm going to cover this guy with foil. We're going to let this sit for at least an hour. You can let it sit longer, but for at least an hour. What's going to happen is, first thing is it's going to keep rising in temperature. It's going to get to 160 if you put it out at 155 to 165. So figure about a 10 degrees rise. So if you pull it out at 170, it's going to get to 180. You're going to have a dry turkey. Okay. So 155 is minimum, 160 is maximum for the best flavor and moistness. All right, and we're going to let this rest, because another reason why is we want it to be juicy and moist and not have a dry turkey. So this is going to allow that to happen. It's going to allow, we put this guy through some stress, right? He just got done cooking, so he needs to relax. Let those muscles relax. Let the juices come down in through it. Let the juices get back down into that pan. So you're making getting your gravy juices together. If you're going to make scratch gravy. All right, so our turkey is resting. So we have an hour left, an hour before showtime. That's when we get our sides back out. So you want to start with cooking your sides that take the longest. So the denser the side, the longer it's going to take to cook. Stuffing, rotten potatoes, they're going to take at least 45 minutes, if not an hour, depending on your oven. So you want to put both of these in. Stuffing, you're going to foil wrap and bake covered for about 45 minutes. For your gratins, same amount of time, 45 minutes minimum. And you want to do this uncovered. And when you bake your gratins, you want a nice golden brown color. And it's basically that cream's going to reduce. You want a nice golden brown color, and that cream's going to reduce and make a nice sauce. And your potatoes are going to be nice and tender, and you have a great au gratin potato. So your denser items in for about 45 minutes to an hour. If you're making green bean casserole, corn pudding, some other classics, sweet potato pie that's been prepped. Now's the time to put those in the oven and let those bake for about 45 minutes. Anything like carrots, green beans without casserole, any veg, you want to wait and do those about 30 to 25 minutes out. So if your oven only holds 4 pans, and this food is about enough for 16 to 20, you can do up to 4 sides. If you have more than that, do all your dense ones first, pull them out, then do your 20-minuters and things like that. So and then if you have bread or rolls to heat up that take 10 minutes, you do those last. So you start with your 45 minutes to an hour, then time it, put in your 30 minutes. You can even pull all those out, cover those with foil, then put your rolls in. While your rolls are cooking, that's when you can carve your turkey and your friends can help put out your side dishes. Okay, so your turkey, we're gonna look at this guy and see how nice and golden brown it got. Got some good color, nice skin. As you can see, the color throughout here, the butter helped do all that. Got the tips, nice and golden. You see the pull here? That's what you want. That's another good way to tell that your turkey's done and nice and pulled away. All right, so there is our turkey. You can put that on your board and give that a nice carve. I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of the turkey here. Just carve down that bone. You're thinking an hour, right? Is the turkey going to get cold? It's going to be warm, but honestly, you've never really had a super hot steak, right? Because the reason why is you want to let that rest so it's actually as tender as possible. That's what the sauce is for. That's what your gravy is for, to warm it back up to get it completely hot. As you can see, we have a nice turkey there. All right. You can just slice it down, and there you go. All right, it's completely cooked. It's down the bone. It's good to go. Okay. So we have our turkey, and your Thanksgiving meal is ready to go. Appreciate you guys watching this video. We thank you for joining us. We hope we helped you make your Thanksgiving stress-free. It shouldn't be chaos, right? It should be a nice time, being thankful, being together. That's what's great about food. It brings people together and creates memories. So we hope this video helps do that. If this is even too much for you then, and you don't want to prep food a day before, you're behind the schedule, here at the Oscar Event Center and Jungle Gyms, we are doing these meals ready to go with a raw turkey brined and tied and out in this pan ready to go. So all you gotta do is put it in the oven, and your sides are prepped just like this. So all you gotta do is that last part that we talked about, of just that 3-hour prep time and cooking and heating it. The packages start from about $79 for 6 people of a turkey breast, all the way up to $149 for a bird that will feed about 16 to 20 people. So it's a great deal, and we'll make it as easy as possible. The orders have to be in on the 20th of November to pick it up on the day before Thanksgiving to have your Thanksgiving dinner prepared for you. And I will be actually cooking every single thing. So you have actually chef prepared meal for you because I'm cooking everything. So, but I hope you have fun with whatever way you decide to go, and this made it easier for you. Thank you and have a great Thanksgiving.